Hello everyone. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create a set of sprites for use in a game where you have a character that's walking left, right, up, and down. As you can see on the screen right now, as you see I've got this character here. If I press up, he moves up and walks left and right and down. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get a sprite sheet that shows this. Now the kind of sprite that you're going to want to find for this, the kind of sprite sheet you're going to want to find is one that's got our characters laid out in rows and columns as shown here. We'll see this enlarged a little bit in just a second here. Typically what I will do to find one that's like that is I will type in the word sprite sheet and then 4x4. That seems to give me what I want, and if I'm looking for a particular character I will type the name of the character at that time as well. But I'm just looking for a general one right now. So I'm going to go to images here, and so the kind of sprite sheets you were looking for are ones that have characters walking in the 4 different directions. Here's down, left, right, and up, that sort of thing. We've also got you got to watch out for, even though they're lined up, you don't want like these cars that are turning around or something like that. The other thing you want to look for is ones that typically have a white background. If you find one that has like a colored background like this, you have to go through the extra step of erasing that background. Now this is actually going to be the one that we're going to use for the tutorial, but we will and so I can show you how to delete the background if you do need to. So first thing I want to show you how to download these from the internet, and what to look for, and again the best way to get the best copy of it. So I'm going to open up a folder that I'm going to store stuff, where I'm going to store the images. It should be near your project folder. This is my project folder for the tutorial I'm running right now. So what you don't want to do is, once you find a sprite, let's say we select this one here, you don't want to just download this one. Download it from here and just drop it over here. You see, it looks okay, but when you go to use it, you'll find that it's usually a lower quality image and it's got a lot of distortion in it. So we are not going to do it that way. What you can do though is you can click on this image and get to this screen. And what you're going to want to double check for is look inside in between these characters. I'm not sure how well you can see it on the screen now, but there is a faint checkerboard pattern behind them. That indicates that this sprite is transparent, which means we won't have to delete the background or erase the background off it. So this is a good one to use. Now, even though this looks okay here, what's the best practice is to go and click View Image here and make sure you get the best quality image that you can. Now, we can take this guy and drag him over and download it. Now this doesn't always work when you drag and drop this way. Sometimes you get a shortcut instead of the actual picture. So I'm going to show you how to the other way to download it. So I'm going to go back to our search sheet and I'm going to download the one that has the colored background. Click that guy. Do the same thing I did here. Click View Image and drag this guy over. And then I'm going to do one more that from previous experience shows me that it doesn't let me download it directly. So I'm going to take this one, again View Image, and I'm going to drag it over, and you see I get a slightly different result here. I get a shortcut here. So if this happens to you, what you have to do is download it the old-fashioned way. I'm going to delete that, where you just right click on the image here and go Save Image As. And then you'll find your folder, find the same folder here, and just save it. Okay, so we've got them now. This is going to be the one that we're going to be using, so let's get to that. Let me close these down. And now I'm going to open up my GameMaker project. I've already got it open and I've got it named and set up and everything, so if you're at this point, you should know how to do that already. So I am going to now import my sprite to use. Now like I said before, I'm going to use the one that has a colored background so that you can see how to get rid of that background. So first thing you want to do is over here where it says Sprites, with your right mouse button. If this is not showing, then there's this little button right here, this little double arrow thing going to the left here. Just click that and it opens up this window. So if you go to Sprites here, you right click And again, right click. There's normally three buttons on your mouse. The one all the way to the right is the one you want. Hit create, and this window pops up. Now, if your picture does not have a colored background, the background is transparent, the steps are slightly different, but you can still do what we're doing here even with those. So we'll just stick with that. First thing you want to do is import the picture. Okay, so we click on that, and hopefully it'll open up right to the picture. If not, take a second, pause, and go find your picture wherever it is you saved it. Again, I'm going to pick the one with the colored background and click open. So now you see I've got my image here with a colored background. So now what I have to do now is I've got to edit this and take out that background color. And there's a hard way to do it and an easy way to do it, and we'll try and show you the easy way, which works in most cases here. So I'm going to hit Edit Image, and you'll see this opens up an image editor window that's very similar to Paint. Those of you familiar with that, or it's a very, very simplified version of Photoshop, something like that. If you use some other photo editing program, this is a very simple version of it. All right, so what we want to look here, we want to get rid of all this. So the tool we need is this guy right here. It's called Magic Wand Tool. Okay, you see you hover over it, it tells the name, and so that's the one you want. And then the trick is here, you click somewhere in the area you want to get rid of. Now notice how it just gave me this tiny little strip of area that it selected. We want a lot more than that. So let me pull back here a little bit, and you see this tolerance thing right here. You click and you drag this slowly across here until you start getting everything you need. Now notice I got a lot more, but I got all this blue area down here. So I'm going to crank that up just a tiny bit more. And again, you don't want to go too far, because then you end up getting like you'll start taking out his eyeball. See, like right here, you see his eyeball got selected and his sword and everything. So we got to crank that back a little bit so we don't get his eye. There you go. So just be cautious with this, and try and just get as much as you need. Okay, and I'm going to move around here so I can. Oh, if you ever make a mistake, just hit Control Z. Just move it around here. The way I'm moving this is off of the screen, off of the image here. I am with the middle mouse button, I'm clicking down and moving around. To zoom in, to go up and down, I just spin the wheel. To zoom in and out, I hold the Control key and zoom and spin the wheel. If I click on here and move it, you see what it did? It took all that stuff. That's not what we want to do. So I'm going to Control Z again. And then once I'm sure that I've got everything selected the way I wanted to, I'll go ahead and hit the Delete key. And you see that clears it up. Now I probably could have done a little bit better job, because see, it's kind of got this little halo effect. So I'm going to undo, turn this up a little bit more, and again I want to avoid right on the threshold there. Okay, go and then go hit delete. There we go. That's a little bit better now, but you'll see I've got a couple places here where I've got like a blue dot there and a blue dot under his chin here between the sword and his body. So then I will just zoom in manually, and with the same tool again, I'll go through and just delete. Where's the other one? There it is. And again, if you want to get really technical, I can go and see all these little halo things with this blue right here. You can go through and get that cleaned up a little bit as well. Okay, so let me back out. So there's our image. Now the trick is we got to get this chopped up into our piece. Oh, we got another little one right there. Let me get that real quick. Okay, let me back up. And all right. So now again, the trick is now to get this chopped up into our 16 sprites that we can use for our image. And the way you do that is in this same screen here, you go to Image right here, and you're going to go Convert to Frames right here. Okay, click that. And then right here is where you tell it how you want it cut up. I'm going to extend this a little bit so you can see everything here. In this kind of sprite, it is going to be very simple because everything's aligned and it's all evenly spaced. There's no extra space that we need to worry about. So first of all, it asks for a number of frames. We need one frame for every sub-image here or character sheet that we got here. So we look and we got 16, 4 times 4. So I just change this to 16 and I click to the next thing. Now it's asking for frames per row. You see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 going across here. That's how many frames per row. Now you can click this little button right here too to do the same thing. See, now I've got 4 by 4 just like the images, but they're not fitting in the boxes. So now the next step is to fix that. The way you do that is frame width and frame height. This one controls the width of each of these boxes here. It's 32 pixels, which is a dot on the screen there. And I just click this button and keep clicking it until they all evenly fit across there. If you go too far, you see that you go off the screen there. You don't want to do that. So it looks like this one at least is 48. And then we do the same for the height. Just double click this until we get to where we need to go. Too far. So 72. It looks like 48 and 72. These other things are meant for if you want to do, like, say, just this middle section. You know, I can if I click one there, see how it doesn't give me, it takes out the first row. If I click the one here, then it's not giving me the top row. So leave those both to 0 for this case. Horizontal pixel offset, what that does is if there is some sort of border around it, that moves over all the boxes over a little bit. Again, in this case, we just want to leave that to 0, and as you can imagine, vertical does it in the vertical direction. See, it brings the box down a little bit. So sometimes you have to mess with those to properly frame all of your characters here. And then horizontal and vertical separation, that just puts a space between them. And in some cases you may need it, in some cases you may not. See, I've got them overlapping here. So, but both of these, again, you can set to 0. But that's what those are there for. In this case, we don't need to worry about them, so we're just going to leave them all at 0. Okay. So I click Convert. And then it gives me a warning. If you do this, it's going to erase anything that's in there now, which is fine. This is not what we want. We don't want this big picture. We want the 16 individual images. So I hit yes. Okay. So now you can see them all up here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see the whole character. And I hit this animation button right there. And it goes through all the sub-images. You see all the sub-images going. Okay. So this won't be helpful for us in our game. So we're going to get these arranged so that each direction has its own sprite. So go ahead and close this sprite. And before we exit this, we're going to give it a name here. And let me zoom in here so I can show you, talk about naming conventions. In GameMaker and in a lot of other game making programs, it's good to have some sort of naming convention for your different assets. In this case, this is a sprite. So this is typically what I do. And again, whatever you decide to come up with is fine. Just make sure you're consistent. I always start off with with lowercase sbr to indicate that it's a sprite, and then I'll put the name of the object. Well, let's go with something a little more classic than person. How about night? Okay, and then I will. That's how I'll name it. Now, your naming convention, it can be whatever you want. Again, just somehow indicate that it is a sprite. Some people do this; they just go S-Night like that. Or if you look in the GameMaker tutorials, a lot of times this is how they do it. They'll go SPR_night, all lowercase like this. So however you decide to do it, it's fine. Just be consistent. So I'm going to go back to the way I do it. I'm going to zoom out, and now I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this. There's a little X right there to exit out of it. Now what I need to do is I need to duplicate this one for each direction. Now I want to keep this original one here intact so that in case I make a mistake with one of the other directions, I can always go back and duplicate it and create another one. So the couple different ways to duplicate. If you right click on SPR Night. You come down here, it says duplicate right there. You click that and it does it. But if you notice, it'll say Control D right there, which means that if I have that selected like that and I hold down the control key, for those of you who don't know, is on the lower left corner of your keyboard. I'm going to take a second and look, find it. Okay, you just hold down the control key and then tap the D key as many times as you need to create the 4 extra ones. See, so now I've got my original one up here, and then I've got these 4 extras. Okay, so now I'm going to just simply open up one of these, and I'm going to go over and I'm going to rename it. I'm going to call it Night Left, because this is going to be the sprite I use for the left character. And I zoom out, and you'll see if I look along my sprites here, I'm going to open this up a little bit so I can see more here. So you see there's all my sub images that make this guy up. And again, if I hit this play button right there, you can see all the different animations. Okay, avoid clicking down on this thing. You'll see why in a later. Before we exit out of creating Sprite, we'll make sure that everything is lined up here. But if you start clicking down here, it can cause problems later on. All right, so I'm going to pause this, and I'm going to see. Okay, here are my left sprites. Okay, so what I need to do is get rid of everything else but those 4. And there's a couple different ways to do that. You can click on the image and hit the little X right there. Okay, and just confirm that you want to do that. You can also click on the image like this and hit the delete key. Now, for those of you who are used to Macs, the delete key is not the backspace key. Okay, it's a different key. Look around on your keyboard. Normally, it's near the backspace key, but it is actually a different key. So make sure you got the right one. So hit delete, and it does that as well. If you want to do more than one at a time, you can select the first one in a series that you want to get rid of. See, I want to get rid of these 2, so I hold that one, and then I can hold the shift button down and get them both at the same time and hit delete. You can also do several that are out of order. If you hold down the control key, so you can click them out of order. But you can, if you want to see, like right now I just want these 4, so I'm going to get rid of all 8 of these. So I click on the first one, hold the shift key down, hit delete, there they go. Okay, so now if you look over here, you'll see my sprite now looks like he's pointing to the left if you take a look at yours. Okay, so we are done with this guy, so I'm going to go ahead and close it. Just open up the next one. I'll walk through it again. I'll go a little bit faster this time. This guy we're going to call Night Right. And we're going to find the ones where he's facing to the right, which are these right there. Okay, so I'm going to click on the first one, hold the shift key, click all the way to the one that's right before the one I want to keep, hit delete, say OK, then delete the last 4. Okay, so now I just got that, and I can click this just to see how it looks. Okay, it looks good. Okay, so we close this guy. Do the next one. This time I'm going to do up. And the order that you make these in doesn't matter as long as the name matches the images. Now for the up key, just to avoid a little confusion, when he moves up on the screen, he's going to be facing away from you. So these are the 4 that you want. So I want to get rid of the first 12 here. So I'm going to click that guy, scroll over here, and click this guy. While holding the shift key, click this guy. And you see all 12 of those are selected. Hit the delete key and OK. All right. And last one, Night Down. Down is when he's facing towards you. That's why he's walking down the screen. That's why we're picking these. So I'm going to pick the last 12 now. Don't know what happened there. Okay, there. Pick the first one after the down sprites, and go to the last one, image. Hit delete, and there we go. Okay, now now we just confirm that they all look good. Okay, so now I no longer need this original one here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just delete it at this time. And then the last thing before I end this tutorial is I want you to go through and make sure that your handles for your sprites or your origins are all in the same spot. So I'm going to just double click this first one, and you'll see this little arrow, this little crosshair right here. If you click it, see if you, that's why I wanted you not to click over here, because you'll see this is your origin right here. Now, depending on how you want your game to be, sometimes you want your origin up here in the corner, sometimes you want it in the middle, sometimes you want it at the bottom at his feet. Different situations require different things. But for this game, just leaving it in the top left corner is fine. So you want to go through all four of these and make sure that this says top left here, and these two will say origin. Okay? And let me show you a little something while we're here. If you click Preview Mask, this right here is what the computer sees of this character. Okay, you see this. You see this right here. The computer sees that gray square. So when it's interacting, this again, it makes it simpler for the computer. This is what it sees. Now you may wonder why it's got all this extra space on the side here, but if you go through your sub images here, you'll see that in one case, see that sword goes all the way to that edge there. So it picks the largest or the smallest volume that it can use to fill that space. And in the game, you may have other problems that you want to address with it. In fact, it's probably something we should talk about right now anyway. All right, so I'm going to open up all four of these and just make sure they all say top left. And then the next thing I want to do is we want to make sure that the collision masks match on all of these. Now, the one where he's walking up and down are probably the straightest ones you want. So if you go to collision mask right here, and you'll see he's got a square here. Now you see his sword in this one is dipping down, so this is something you need to worry about. His sword is dipping down almost to the end. Now if you look on your other characters, his sword does not go down that far, and this will cause problems. So what you got to do now is you want to set your collision mask here and change it to manual. And the next goal we're going to have here is to try and get these so that they are all the same in all four of your directions here. So I'm going to bring this up to his feet here, like this. Okay, and I'm going to look at the bottom. 68 is the number I want. The head and the sides look okay. Okay, so I'm going to remember these numbers: 7, 41, 1, and 68. Okay, so I'm going to go to the other ones. Let's start from the top. Collision mask, manual, and I think it was 7, 41, and let me refresh my memory on that other one, 1 and 68. So I go back, and again, to go back and forth, I just double click over here. So just 1 and 68. Now 68 was already set, so now this shape, the computer will see this guy in the same shape here and in the other one. The box is exactly the same. If you double click down here, see that box is exactly the same. So let's do the other two. Same thing. Collision mask, manual. Make sure you change this to manual. And it was 7, 41. Let me zoom in on this so you can see a little bit better. And then 1 and 68. Okay, and if I zoom back out, you can see it matches. It'll match the other ones here. See, so the square is about the same. 741, 168, 741, 168. And this guy we got to do also as well. So collision masks, manual, 741, 168. Now, this is for this sprite. Okay, your numbers may be different, but just make them all the same. It will make your life simpler in the end. Trust me. Okay, now I think we are actually done with this tutorial. Let me go through and just close these out, and we will use these sprites in another tutorial. Okay? All right, we'll see you then.